Hey everybody, this is my 20-gallon angelfish tank, although I am coming to think of it as my creature from the Black Lagoon tank. It is looking really rough, and I've actually got some time tonight and a little bit of motivation, so we're going to get in there and work on it. Before we really get started though, I do want to reiterate to everybody that the tank itself is fine. The quality of the water in there is just fine for the fish. They're swimming around looking nice and healthy. The water is crystal clear. I just checked the nitrates. We're sitting at about 10 parts per million. So there's nothing about the tank going on that is putting the fish in any kind of unhealthy situation. It just looks absolutely awful. And of course, you can see by the condition of the filter there, it's time to, well, it's overdue time to do a little bit of work in the filter. And if nothing else, I would have very at least needed to top the tank off. But we're not going to do that. We're going to actually get in here and do a water change, and we're going to start working on cleaning out some of this cyanobacteria. So I'm not 100% sure what my game plan here is going to be as far as how I'm going to set the camera up and get this on video. I'm going to try to give you a good idea of what it looks like to clean some of this stuff up. In fact, I might be able to show you a little bit of what it looks like right on this back glass here. This should come off in a big, nasty, ugly sheet or fairly easily. So you can see that's not algae, that is cyanobacteria. Hang on a minute, get it off my finger there so it doesn't fall over. So that's cyanobacteria. That I got it in here. I really don't know if I need to actually get in here and show you the whole process. I can just show you how I'm going to do it now. See, I mean, I can just do this and just scrape it off of the leaves. And what you're left with is a nice clean leaf and a finger full of cyanobacteria. Let's see what this one does. Now sometimes you'll have damage on the leaf like this one. I actually stripped the whole top of the leaf off, but I'm also pulling huge gobs of this cyanobacteria off. I tore that leaf in half too. So I'm going to get in here, like I said, do more of this. I'm going to get a pile of this by the time I'm done. I'm going to have a half pound of it probably, but I'm going to get in there and we're going to work on it. We're going to clear it off of as much stuff as I can. See, it just comes off in sheets and you leave nice clean woodwork behind. So it's not hard to get out of the tank in this sense. I mean, you can physically remove pieces of it. It's not like green spot algae that gets on the glass and you need a jackhammer to get in there and get it off the glass. This stuff comes out of the tank very easily. As far as eradicating it and killing it, that's a different story. And I don't know what it is about this particular tank, but it just grows with a vengeance in this tank. It just comes back so fast and it covers everything. I even get the red cyanobacteria growing in here. So I just don't know what it is about this tank that makes it so heavily overgrown with all of this stuff. I mean, just piles of it in here. I can just pick it up by the chunk. So I'm going to get as much of it out physically as I can. Again, I'm not really sure how we're going to do this camera-wise. I don't know how much of this I'm going to get on video, especially since I've already given you a pretty good idea what I wanted to show you, and just, again, how easy this stuff comes out of here in big sheets and chunks. So I'm going to get started on doing all this, and we will... Look at that. That is just huge piles of it. So anyway, again, I'm going to get on with doing all this, and then we will see what the tank looks like after I'm done. And then we will get in here with some ChemiClean and an Airstone, and we're really going to start putting some serious ChemiClean treatment on this tank and trying to wipe this stuff out, because I'm getting tired of looking at it, and I'm getting tired of it coming back after just a couple of weeks after I clean this whole tank out. You know, I have other tanks where it does come back and I do have to treat it from time to time, but that's maybe once or twice a year. This just immediately grows back. Again, I don't know what it is about this tank. It just grows with a vengeance in here. So let me get started. We'll see where we go from here, and then we're going to wham this thing with ChemiClean for as long as it takes to really sort of eradicate it and see if we can't get it out of this tank once and for good. So hang on, I'll see you in a minute. Alright everybody, we're going to call this the stepping off point tonight. This is going to be phase one of getting this tank cleaned up. I got in there and physically removed as much of that stuff as I reasonably could with my hand, and then I got in with some material, some batting. I didn't bother with the magic sponges or the melamine erasers or whatever tonight. I used regular old pieces of filter material batting to get the glass cleaned up because there was just so much stuff in there. I had to just scrape it out and get rid of it. So just the stuff I got out of there by hand is that. I'm not even counting the stuff that I got out on the pads that I wiped the glass down. That does have some substrate in it. A few of those really big mats were growing down on the substrate, and when I lifted them up, some of the substrate came with it, but that is mostly just a big, looks like a smog monster. I don't know if you any old Godzilla fans from the old movies back in the day, but Godzilla versus the Smog Monster comes to mind when I look at that. That's two old movies I've referenced tonight. I'm on a roll. So anyway, I got all that cleaned out. I got the glass wiped down, all four sides. My goal here is to get as much of that cyanobacteria physically out of the tank as I can before I start treating it. Let's have as little in there as possible for the ChemiClean to have to deal with. So once I got all that out of there, I did a 5-gallon water change. I just used the bucket and a hose and did the siphon. So that does not, what we just looked at, that smog monster in the bucket there, did not count all the stuff I got off the bottom, all of the mats and stuff. I got the glare of my shoes in there. All of the crud and stuff that was up under here, all of that came out into the bucket. It was a lot of stuff in there. It was really, really filthy, gross stuff in there. Yet, again, you saw, had like 10 parts per million nitrate. So if nitrates are what you go by with, whether a tank is clean or in need of a water change or in need of maintenance, this tank was doing fine. It only had about 10 parts per million nitrate. In my opinion, though, it was really, really in need of some work. So we got in there, and again, we did phase one by getting as much of the stuff out of there physically as we could. Of course, I got in and changed the filter pad, the bio media, the sponge in the front, that was all cruddy and gross and really, restricting the flow. So I cleaned that all out, got that nice and cleaned out, and then I put a huge air stone in here. This is actually from a air pump that's for a 100-gallon tank, and it's got twin nozzles on it, 2 hoses, and I only threw one of them in there. The other hose is just blowing out into the air, and yet you still have that much water swirling around the tank. But I want that. I want a lot of oxygen in the tank. I want as much oxygen in the tank as the water will hold, because I'm about to use this ChemiClean, and this stuff is not a harsh chemical, as much as people like to claim that I'm always treating my tanks with these harsh chemicals and everything. This is not a harsh chemical. It is a form of erythromycin. I don't exactly understand what the difference between this is and the erythromycin that you would think of as just E-mycin, but this is a form of E-mycin, and it uses oxygen to kill the stuff that it's killing in there. It does oxidize it, so you really, really need to have a good, vigorous source of gas exchange. One of them little Cheshire chests that opens up every 10 seconds and lets a bubble out doesn't count. It's got to be a really, really good, vigorous air stone in there, and the more you are treating, the more air stone you should have. And in this case, we're treating a lot of stuff, and I want to actually show you how I do this, because I'm going to do it a little differently, and I want to explain how I do it while I'm doing it. First of all, that is the treatment dosage spoon. You're supposed to do one of those little spoons for every 10 gallons. So that would be 2 of these tiny little spoons for this tank. I go way more than that. I've experimented over the years, and slowly but surely I have increased the dosages to see what would happen, and now that I know that it is just E-mycin, I'm really not worried about it at all. So for a tank like this, I will usually do, very, very well-rounded scoop. I just sort of scoop it out. This is also something that you don't really have to worry about pre-mixing before you put it into the aquarium. It just goes in there and swirls away. I've even seen fish swim up and nibble at it and stuff. Again, it's just a form of E-mycin. It's not hurting anything by going in the tank like this. So here would be the second scoop. Again, very, very giant, well-rounded scoop. I'm probably doing almost a double dosage on this tank. In fact, we're definitely going to be doing a double dosage on this tank, if that wasn't already, because I am going to add one more little scoop in there just for good measure, since we have so much stuff in this tank to kill. So that's 3 big, well-rounded scoops into a 20-gallon tank with no pre-mixing. So if you think this is dangerous, or I'm putting harsh chemicals in the tank or whatever, then make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the updates on this tank and everything else, because you're going to see how it doesn't harm these fish at all. I've done this kind of stuff many times, and it's no big deal. You can already see the suds starting to form in about 15 minutes. The whole top of that tank's going to look, well, you know, obviously not where the air bubbles are coming up, but all this area is just going to be covered in suds. And again, that's from the you know it's working by those suds appearing on the top. The oxygenation or the oxidizing of the bacteria and stuff is already beginning to take place, and that's why we're already starting to see those bubbles. So again, I'm going to do a really big hit on this one. We're going to really slam it, and we're going to give it a day or two, do a water change, maybe even without doing a water change. I'll just slam it again and put more in there, and we're really going to hit this tank hard this time and see if I can't get it knocked out, at least to the point where it doesn't come back like a rubber ball. You know, I mean, it's one thing for it to reestablish in the tank over time. You know, we are in my basement. I do have cyanobacteria in other tanks. It is going to get back in this tank again someday. I just don't understand why, after I do treatments like this is not the first time I've done this, you know, and it comes back with a vengeance. So today we are going to start the process of really just crushing it with this ChemiClean. I'm going to be putting that ChemiClean in there until it is clean, and I don't see any traces of the cyanobacteria. And I think maybe if we get to that point, we will be in the clear. And if not, we'll see what happens. We'll see, you know, if it comes back with a vengeance again after that, I'm still going to be left scratching my head, but it'll be something to talk about. You know, we'll go from there. Let's just wait and see what happens. But this hopefully is going to be my once and for all. We're really going to knock it back this time. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you are subscribed, because you don't want to miss what's going to be coming up on this tank. I'll be doing some updates here in the next few days and whatnot as we get it cleaned up more. And if you're subscribed, you won't miss that or anything else. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget, this is my 20-gallon angelfish tank. You can see my little angelfish hiding down there in the corner. Thanks again. I'll see you real soon in the next one.